Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Today I'm going to show you 5 plugins that completely changed the game for me when it comes to music production. These are 5 plugins that I use daily regardless if I'm producing music, composing, mixing. No matter what I'm doing, I'm always reaching for these 5 plugins first. My hope is that this video will introduce you to some new plugins or new ways to use plugins that'll help take your music to the next level. The first plugin I want to show you is FabFilter Saturn. If you're not familiar with this, it's a multi-band saturator. So what that means is you can split the frequency spectrum into multiple sections and process each section differently. So under each band, you have the type of saturation you want to use and some controls for mix, feedback, dynamics. You can even get really crazy with modulation. I haven't even touched in this. You can also adjust the tone for that band as well as the overall level for that band. I use this for a couple of different things, but the main thing is on my drums. Here's what it sounds like, and then I'll explain what's going on. The idea here is that I've split the snare into 3 different bands. The lower band I leave at around 20% drive because I don't want it to overdrive too much and mess with that fundamental low end. But band 2 and 3, you can really push it and add this beautiful tape saturation and newfound kind of presence and top end to the snare. So my favorite setting is the warm tape. And I'll turn these down to 0 and then add them in so you can really hear. I've turned these down to 0 and I'll add them in so you can hear what's going on. So here's the mids. It at the same time warms it up and adds in more detail. I don't know how that works, but it's the magic of Saturn. And then here's the top end. That's so much better to me. I hope you can hear that difference because it's awesome through my headphones. So that's just the difference it makes on one drum. I'll run through a couple other things and show you. We can do one on kick in. So here's kick in. Oh, so much good click and top end there. Here's without it. With it. Here's the snare trigger. Yeah. And then here's on the overheads too, so you can get a full picture. So the idea is to put this on every channel on the drums, and the reason being is because we're using crossovers, and that could add in tiny little phase differences. So since I've already lined up the phase of these drums, I just want to make sure I'm staying consistent across the board. And so I've added it to every channel on my drums, and some of them I didn't want to add too much saturation, so I just put it there and maybe added a little, but as long as the crossovers are there in the same spot, your phase is good. So here's all the drums by themselves with no Saturn. Here's Saturn. To me, that's incredible, and I found no other plugin that can make my drums sound like that. So that's the main thing I use it for. You can also use it for bass or get creative. There's tons of options and crazy things you can do with it. I'm barely scratching the surface with what I'm doing, but it's still a dramatic improvement. All right, plugin number 2. This is made by Soundtoys, and I got it in their everything bundle a while back, but this is called the Echoboy Jr, and it's a delay plugin. So if you've not seen it, it looks like this. And I love it because it's so simple. So basically you have your mix knob, like how much delay versus not delay sound you want to hear. You have your echo time right here, which if you're not synced, it's time, or you can go to note, which is the value shown on the screen, or you can say like dotted eighth or triplet. So it's a really quick way if you want to get to your dotted eighths or like, oh, say quarter note triplets. It's super fast to get exactly the subdivision that you want. And then you've got your feedback, like how many repeats you want right here. I love this mode right here because you can do normal, wide, or ping pong. So let me start showing you some examples. I have this on the lead vocal. So I wait outside. So I have it on ascend, so I want the mix all the way up. And I have it on quarters now, but I'll kind of flip through and show you what's going on. So normal mode is going to be kind of mono, right down the middle. So I wait outside. And then wide is going to kind of spread it into the stereo field without it being ping pong. This is my favorite mode. I use it most of the time. So I wait outside, wait for you to say that I'm worth your time. So depending on if you want your delays right up the middle or really wide, you can toggle that back and forth really quickly. A lot of delay plugins, they're either one or the other, and it's harder to kind of pick what's going on. The final mode is ping pong, where it kind of goes between left and right. So I wait outside. I use that a lot too, and what's nice is that some stereo or ping pong delays, you have to have a different time on each side, but this one very easily, you can say, okay, quarter notes, and it'll just go quarter, 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 back and forth without any like weirdness. Because I've used some where it's like you got to do quarter on one side and eighth on the other side, and it gets weird. This one's super easy. Glide, you can toggle on. This is like when you change the time, you get that weird wow wow kind of sound. I'll show you. So I wait outside. That sound. You can turn that off if you don't want it, and it'll just switch right to the new sound. So and then the other part of this that I love is the delay emulations right here. So right now we're on studio tape, but they have the like Plex, which is like the Echo Plex. And then they have Space, which is the Space Echo. And then they have cheap tape Memory, which is Memory Man. So I'll let you hear some of these real quick. So I wait outside, wait for you to say that I'm worth your time. So I wait outside, wait for you to say that I'm worth your time. They even have that cool transmitter radio delay right there. And then if you need to dial in the sound anymore, you have this low cut, high cut, and saturation. So it's super user-friendly. There's nothing there that you don't need, and it's very quick to get through different delays. I love the emulations because it's quick to toggle through and kind of A/B different ones you want to try out without having to learn a different interface. Like if you're switching from a Memory Man to a Space Echo, there's going to be a big learning curve trying to figure out where everything is, but this has all the emulations right there with the same controls. And I think that's a huge game changer because it's just lets you get in and get out quickly and get delay. Plugin number 3. This one, I don't know if it counts as one plugin or a lot, but it takes up one insert, so I'm counting it as one plugin. This is called Virtual MixRack. And so if you're not familiar with this, it's essentially like a 500 series format where you have all these racks in here vertically, and you can drag them around and you have like everything. So this one pulled up right now as my vocal chain. And so I'll kind of talk through each step here. This first one it's called Hollywood, but it's a tube preamp. And so you've got controls for saturation, high pass, everything. So here's without it. So I wait outside. And I'm driving it pretty hard because this song is kind of aggressive and I want that little bit of grit on the vocal. Next is this Blue Edition 1176 style compressor. It's great. It's great. So I wait outside. Got compression. This is an SSL style EQ. So I wait outside. Sounds so good. And then an LA2A compressor. So I wait outside. And then I like this trimmer plugin here because you can adjust the gain of your whole plugin chain right there and then also toggle the phase. And then that takes up one slot. All that stuff is in there, takes up one plugin slot. So The sound is good. It's great. It's fine. It's like comparable with Waves or any third-party plugins that have the vintage emulation. But that the bonus here is that it's all in one thing, and you don't have to have all these windows open. It's just right there, and it's super fast. And you can also set up like presets here. So I have one I like called Drum Start, and so let me add a new one in here. Virtual MixRack, stereo. So I can just click this when I'm mixing, Drum Start, and it gives me kind of a Neve 73 preamp, SSL dynamics and EQ and the trimmer. So it's just super quick to like get that in there and get going. And there's so many different racks here, tons of preamps. If you're familiar with the virtual mic system, you can use these in here too. That's great. I'd highly recommend this. Can't say enough good things about it. And I use it on everything. If you look in my session here, that's like the first plugin on everything. I'll show you the bass rack too. That one's really cool. So this one, they have this, it's an 1176, just the preamp side of it. So if you like the sound of the 1176 compressor and just want it as a preamp with no compression, they have that. And then they've got the distressor, Neve EQ. They have this custom thing. It's called a custom series lift. And so you can just boost lows and highs with a couple different sounds. And then the trimmer there to adjust the gain on the way out. It's great. Just get it. Plugin 4 is an oldie but a goodie. This is Waves C6. So if you haven't seen this before, it's a multi-band compressor with 6 bands. So 4 of those are your standard like low, mid, highs. And then you get 2 extra ones that are called floating bands because you can move them wherever you want. So this is great for mastering, for vocals, voiceovers, anything that you want separate control over different areas. You can also independently toggle a sidechain for each one, and more on that in a minute. So I have this on my stereo output, kind of simulating what I would do when I master. So you can solo up each band here and adjust like you would a compressor. So each band is getting compressed a little bit to manage the overall levels, and then I found 2 problem areas with the floating bands here. This is a lot of like low mid build up. And the harsh zone right here. It's a great way to control the mix. Another thing I love to do with this is kind of ducking my guitars out of the way of the vocals. So the way I have that set up here is I'm only using 1 floating band here in this area. So what I did is I soloed this up and listened to my soloed vocals as well. And I moved this around until I found the area that it's competing the most with the vocals. Right there. That's so getting in the way of the vocals. And so what I did is I sidechained off my vocal bus here. Right down here at the bottom is this section called sidechain. And what this says is if it's set to internal, then it's going to compress based on the channel that it's on. So for this, it would be on the guitars. But if you switch it to external, it's going to compress based on this sidechain right here, which is my lead vocals. And so now, whenever the lead vocals get louder, it turns down just this section of the guitars, the part that conflicts with the vocals the most. So wait for you to say that I'm worth your time. So the nice thing is when the vocals are going, it dips the guitars out of the way. You don't notice because the vocals are occupying that space. And then when the vocals stop, the guitars are re-entered into that space. So your mix is still very present, but your vocals have space when they come in now. That's awesome. I I love that. It helps me so much with the mix, and then I'm not having to carve out as much space because it's like, oh, I'll just duck out that space when the vocals are going. Here's without it. Here's with it. Just instantly makes the mix clearer, and you can hear everything a little better because the guitars are still coming in other areas of frequencies. So it's not like you're losing the guitars. All that said, it's an excellent compressor. Get it. I think you can wait till it's on sale and it's like 29 bucks. Nothing in this video is sponsored, by the way. I'm talking about these purely because I love them and use them all the time and want you to learn about them. Plugin number 5. This is FabFilter Pro Q 3. So if you're not familiar with this, it looks amazing. I always put it on my master bus, first of all, because it's the most visual, like best frequency analyzer I've seen. Just look at it. It looks so good. But I'll show you an example of it on the lead vocal. This EQ, you can put in a band wherever you want, first of all. And then bands can do multiple things. So this band right here, if you click, you have all these options. You could do shelf, high filter, low filter. You could do a notch and just get rid of a certain area. You've also got quick access to slope right here on your filters. You can also solo the band. So if I hit play, wait for you to say that you can hear what you're rolling off. Or in an instance of a bell, you can hear just that section. That's great. You can also make the bands dynamic. If you hit this little area here, you can say enable or disable dynamics. So this one, in addition to being a regular EQ, you also have the dynamic range here. And so you can either have it be automatic or set a threshold. So this one... Wait for you to sit. So this is just turning down the low end when it starts to get too much buildup. And so you can like boost it and take some out at the same time. It's awesome. So wait for you to sit. So now we're increasing the energy of the low end of this vocal. But if it gets to be too much and starts to build up too much, we're compressing it back down. This is an awesome trick for vocals. It helps you get that super polished professional sound. I'm doing the same thing up higher where the vocals get a little harsh. It's essentially doing the work of a de-esser, if you're familiar with that, just taming certain parts of the vocal that get a little too harsh for the ear. So one of my other favorite things to do with this is on the mastering side of things. You can actually set up mid-side processing very easily. And if you're not familiar with mid-side processing, it's essentially instead of a band affecting the entire frequency spectrum, you can say only operate on the things in the very middle or only operate on the things unique to the left and the right. So I'll show you an example of that. Let's say we want this band to only affect the mid. Then it turns a color and you get the little M right there. And I'll move this around so you can hear what's going on. So this is only what's up and down in the middle. If I switch it to side, this is only what's going on in the sides. So say we want more vocals, right? Say we're doing a master, we don't have access to the vocals anymore. You can make a mid band and sweep through till you find where the vocals kind of exist, kind of where they're present, and you can boost that. And your mix is going to feel like the vocals are louder, even though you didn't change that. Kind of right there. And then say we kind of want more of the body of the guitars just on the side, those hard pan rhythm guitars. So I'm going to make another band, but place it on the side. And then this band, So now we're boosting, with one EQ, we're boosting our vocal presence in the mids, but also increasing the width of our track kind of in the low mids where the guitars are hanging out and being powerful. All of that with one EQ. So we're improving our stereo width. We're making our mono a little stronger. So many things you can do with just the one EQ. You've also got a ton of UI options here to kind of change the scale. So if we only want a 3 dB scale, then you can see all of a sudden our peaks seem a lot higher, but it's because this line up here is only 3 decibels. So many awesome things you can do with it. Also, if you hold your mouse over, it'll show you where the peaks in your mix are. So now you can see I have a peak at 86, 194, 702, 2.8K, 7.8K. It's awesome. I don't know a lot of plugins that do that. So this one's a little more pricey, but if you need just the most amazing utility plugin, it also sounds super crisp and clean. I totally recommend that. That wraps up my video for 5 plugins that were complete game changers for me. I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, let me know in the comments. Also, let me know what your favorite plugins are. I'd love to check it out and see if it could benefit my workflow. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks.